The morning alarm goes off, you barely wake up. You endure the traffic, spending the most productive 9 or 10 hours of your day building someone else's dreams. And when the end of the month arrives, the money in your hands is barely enough to cover the bills, the credit card and the rent. You've been told a lie since you were a little kid. If you work hard enough, save your money, and play by the rules, you can be rich one day. But look around you. No matter how hard you work, your purchasing power melts away every single day. Buying a house or a car isn't just a dream anymore. It's impossible. So why? Is there an economic mistake at play here? No. The financial system you live in is not broken. On the contrary, it is working flawlessly, because this system was not designed to make you rich. It was intentionally designed to keep you poor, in debt, and dependent on the system. According to the latest data published by Oxfam, as of 2025, the total wealth of the world's billionaires reached an all-time high of $18.3 trillion. Since 2020 alone, the wealth of the richest has increased by 81%. So what is the only thing in your life that has increased by 81% in the last 5 years? Your debt and your stress. Today, it is time to swallow the red pill. We are exposing the 4 heavily guarded financial tricks used by governments, central banks, and the wealthy to turn you into a modern-day slave. Fasten your seatbelts because what you are about to hear will change your perspective on life forever. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Invisible Thief and the Cantillon Effect. Let's say the government knocked on your door one morning and said, there is a deficit in the budget, so starting today, we are confiscating 30% of your salary in the bank. What would you do? Along with millions of others, would probably take to the streets and riot. No government could risk that kind of backlash. So how does the government take your money without causing you to riot? The famous Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman has a great quote. Inflation is taxation without legislation. When the government or the central bank runs out of money, they don't come and ask you for taxes. Instead, they fire up the printing presses and inject trillions of unbacked currency into the market. You look at your bank account and your money is still there. The $100 bill in your pocket is physically intact. But when you go to the grocery store, half of the purchasing power of that $100 has already evaporated. Nothing was physically taken from your pocket, but the value of your labor was stolen by the system. But the real magic trick, the truly diabolical plan, starts here. In economics, this is called the Cantillon effect. To understand this, imagine honey being poured onto a table. A huge, thick, sweet pool forms in the center where you pour it. But as that honey spreads out to the edges of the table, it thins out, dries up, and loses its impact. This is exactly how newly printed government money enters the economy. Who gets those fresh, brand new trillions of dollars first? Central banks, giant commercial banks, massive corporations that win government contracts, and the privileged elite. They get this money, and before market prices have a chance to rise, they buy up massive plots of land, companies, and stocks. They multiply their wealth. What happens when the money finally trickles down to the lower-tier companies and eventually, months or years later, reflects as a raise in your paycheck? Inflation has already exploded, and the prices of houses and groceries have gone through the roof. In other words, that newly printed money steals purchasing power from your pocket at the bottom of the system and legally transfers it into the pockets of the rich who used that money first. In times of crisis, they always say the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. This is no coincidence. It is the mathematical result of the Cantillon effect. Chapter 2. From the printing press to the keyboard. Modern debt slavery. Let's get to the biggest illusion at the heart of the system. Banks. If you asked 100 people on the street, 99 of them would explain how banks work like this. People deposit their savings in the bank keeps that money in its vault, and then it lends that money to me as a mortgage to buy a house. Let me tell you something very clearly. This is the biggest lie in history. When you go to a bank and take out a 20-year, $100,000 mortgage, the bank doesn't go down to its vault and hand you $100,000 that belongs to someone else. In the modern banking system, the bank employee presses a few keys on a keyboard and creates that $100,000 out of thin air. Right that second. A digital number is typed into your account. That money did not exist in the world before. It was created the exact moment you signed that paper. The bank gives you that imaginary money it created in 2 seconds on a keyboard. But what does it ask from you in return? Your actual real labor, the best 20 years of your life, spent working from 8 to 6. And not just that $100,000, but all the interest stacked on top of it. Do you want to hear the even more terrifying math behind this? When banks issue a loan, they only create the principal amount. They do not create the interest for that loan. which means if everyone in the world wanted to pay off all their debts at the exact same time, there physically isn't enough money in the system to pay off that interest. So how is this interest gap closed? For the system to avoid collapsing, the economy must constantly grow, new people must constantly be dragged into the swamp of debt, and more credit cards must be handed out. The system never wants you to live a comfortable, peaceful, debt-free life. Student loans to go to college, auto loans to buy a car, personal loans to get married. On the surface, nobody has iron shackles on their wrists or ankles, but that credit card statement that arrives at the end of the month is a modern shackle that forces you to go to that job you hate every single morning. This is called debt slavery. You think you are free, but in reality you are just a battery powering the wheel of interest created by the banks. Chapter 3. The Tax Trap and Bracket Creep. Welcome to the third pillar of the system that keeps you poor, the tax system. You are always fed the fairy tale that we tax the rich more and the poor less. But in reality, the tax system is a grinding machine designed to destroy the middle class. Let's say life got very expensive due to inflation, and your boss gave you a 40% raise at the beginning of the year. You were happy, right? You said, finally, I'll have more money in my hands. You were wrong. There is a sneaky mechanism in economics called bracket creep. Because of inflation, the raise you got didn't actually increase your purchasing power at all. Your salary just went up numerically. But this fake increase instantly pushes you into a higher tax bracket in the eyes of the government. Now, instead of paying 20%, you start paying 27% in taxes. So, while inflation empties your pockets at the grocery store on one side, it makes you look richer on the other, allowing the government to take a bigger bite out of your paycheck. You think you are staying in place, but you are actually moving backward. The billionaire's tax secret. Buy, borrow, die. So while the government takes a quarter of your salary before you even touch it, how is it that America's 25 richest billionaires, according to official documents leaked by ProPublica, added $400 billion to their wealth while paying a true tax rate of only 3.4%? How can names like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk even pay zero income tax in certain years? Because they aren't playing the same game as you. The rich do not work in salaried jobs where they are forced to pay taxes to the government. They use the biggest loophole in the system, the buy, borrow, die strategy. This strategy consists of 3 simple steps. Buy. Invest all your money into appreciating assets like stocks or real estate. Like Jeff Bezos' wealth being entirely in Amazon stock. Borrow. Do you suddenly want a $500 million mega yacht? Don't go and sell your stocks. If you sell that stock, the government will stand in front of you and demand a 30% tax on your profits. Instead, you use your billions in stocks as collateral and take out a $500 million loan from the bank at near zero interest. By law, loan money is not considered income, which means a loan can never be taxed. You live like a king on that tax-free money. Die. This credit cycle spins until you die. And when you die, that famous law kicks in. When all your billion-dollar assets pass down to your children, the tax cost is wiped out and stepped up to the current basis. Your kids inherit that massive empire without paying a single penny in capital gains tax. So, while you are mercilessly paying taxes at the grocery store or the gas station every month, the architects of this system build dynasties that last for generations without paying a single dime in tax. Chapter 4. Psychological control. Why does the state want you dependent? I can hear that most crucial question in your mind. Well, if this system is so broken and unfair, why don't politicians fix it? Why don't they ensure that everyone lives in prosperity? Because, my friends, it's not about the money, it's about power and control. In political science and sociology, this is known as dependency theory and the autocratic middle-class paradox. Think about it for a second. If you had enough savings in the bank to last you 15 years, if you had absolutely no debt, and if your mind wasn't consumed with the stress of, how am I going to make ends meet this month? What would you do? You would start reading, researching, and thinking. You would confront politicians and demand transparency. You would demand justice and accountability. If necessary, you would quit your job, join NGOs, and protest in the streets. Because you would have nothing to lose. A financially free society that stands on its own 2 feet is always the greatest threat to those in power. But let's return to reality. A person whose rent day is approaching, who struggles to pay the minimum on their credit card, and who is constantly thinking about their child's school expenses is living under an immense cognitive load. University studies prove that people experiencing financial stress have a 20% lower voter turnout rate in political elections compared to those who feel secure. A demographic that cannot lift its head from the stress of debt that stares numbly at the TV or social media out of sheer exhaustion when they get home at night, has neither the energy nor the time to question long-term state policies, organise or rebel. The poorer you get, who do you become dependent on just to survive? The state. You become dependent on distributed coal aids, food stamps, subsidies, or the politicians who will give you a raise on your barely sufficient minimum wage. And there is a fundamental rule of human nature. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. This is exactly why governments and elites never want the middle class to become fully independent. They want you neither to starve to death and riot, nor to get rich enough to question the system. The system is calibrated to keep you right on that thin line, in that survival mode where you live paycheck to paycheck, credit to credit. Your poverty is not a bug in the system. It is the system's most successful firewall. Conclusion. Exiting the matrix and breaking the chains. Hearing all of this might have upset you, but you cannot fight in the dark. You have to know your enemy and their weapons. As the Oxfam reports prove, the game isn't rigged for us to win. It's rigged so the house always wins. But the good news is this: once you understand the rules, you can play this game with their weapons. Except that you will never get rich by staying in cash or working a salaried job. Inflation is the invisible thief. Escape inflation by investing in the right stocks, real estate, and precious metals. Realize that every credit card or debt limit the banks hand you is a shackle placed on your future labour. And get rid of unnecessary consumer debt immediately. Increase your financial literacy, stop working for money, and learn how to build systems where money works for you. They want you to stay ignorant, stressed, and dependent. The greatest punishment you can give them is to take your financial freedom into your own hands. If what I've explained in this video sparked something in your mind, please share this video with the friends you want to wake up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video so we can reach more people in the algorithm. I'm definitely waiting for your thoughts in the comments. Protect your mind, your labour, and your wallet. See you in the next video. Take care.